Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's our midweek Leeds United catch-up show where we take a look at all the latest news and debate around Leeds United and preview the weekend ahead as Leeds have the chance to climb to the top of the Championship for the first time this season. Please like the video and get your comments in and also subscribe to the channel. I'm Stephen Brown and with me is Mr. Jason Booker. Good evening, Jason.
Very good evening, my friend. How are you?
We doing? Good? Yeah, got a bit of lurgy going on, haven't you, mate? Got a bit of lurgy. This thing that's going around there.
A little bit of chest.
Yeah.
But I'm here.
He's a trooper.
I'm a trooper. Keep going.
You know what I mean?
For the content.
Exactly.
For the content. I'm trying to spin all the plates at the moment. It's a little bit crazy is the life at the moment, but I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm good.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, we should mention as well, because you're nearly up and running with your job as an employee of Leeds United as well. So exciting times ahead for you personally, isn't it? Well,
yeah, looking forward to it, mate. Really looking forward to getting started. Hopefully it can take me in a bit of a direction where it can come to be full-time one day. That's the dream. You know, we all dream of doing things that we can kind of love every day, don't we, as part of us quest to just survive. So fingers crossed, mate. I'm looking forward to getting started for sure. Find the next Archie Gray.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. That's a challenge, mate. That's a challenge. Okay, so we're just going to kick things off with a little recap of Leeds United's situation, and it's pretty much the most exciting time of the season now. It's really hotting up. Last 9 games to go. Let's have a look at this league table, Jason. I mean, to have been in this position, you know, it's just a great position to be in, isn't it? I think especially when you're looking at the side as a whole, how well we're doing defensively, which I think is absolutely huge. Goal difference, we're just 1 behind Leicester. So a couple of goals, if we can win on Sunday, will do the trick. It'll see Leeds go to that first position, which, as many Leeds fans would tell you, it was unthinkable just a couple of months ago, a few short weeks ago. Somehow we've climbed back that deficit. And, you know, we're going to be chatting a little bit later in the show about the financial side of things as well. We covered a little bit on our last post-match review, but I think when we hear these arguments from other teams where they're saying, oh, well, you're Premier League team, Premier League money, it doesn't quite work out that way, and we're going to be having a look why that's not the case as well. But just in terms of our current situation, Jason, it's just full steam ahead, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I think, you know, if you'd have given any Leeds fan this situation, probably even before a ball was kicked, I think they'd have snapped your hands off. Yeah. And I think certainly come the end of August, would have doubly snapped your hands off. And then even at Christmas, you know, only a mere 12 games ago, you'd have been looking at the situation and been like, what, to be 3 points behind Leicester and sat in second, having the opportunity when they're not playing to go top of the league? You're joking? Yeah. You know, at one point, I'm pretty sure the biggest gap that we've had to Leicester was 17 points. Am I right in thinking that it would have gone to 17 points had they have beaten us in the first game?
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that's when
we took it to 11. It was 14. Yeah. We took it to 11, but then it swung back the other way to 15 or 16 since then. And we've clawed it all this way back. And, you know, I would say the majority of that down is to the form of Leeds. 80-90% of that is down to us because, you know, we've won 11 out of 12 games. It's an unbelievable record, and we've been a juggernaut, and everything that we've kind of set up around being so solid defensively, it's been huge. And then, you know, it coincides with the time where Leicester have hit a bit of a sticky patch and they've lost 3 out of the last 5, 1 win in 5. You know, they've lost more games than us now. Same amount as Southampton, who were, you know, 9 points behind them in the table there. You know, it's coincided nicely, but no team just goes through constantly all season without dropping points. No. You know, you even look at the invincible team and the Arsenal team that went invincible in the Premier League. A lot of people throw this at them, but they drew a lot of games that year. They finished on way below the record points total for a Premier League season. So, you know, teams drop points. Things happen in games. And, you know, the fact that this team's been able to be so consistent over this run of games since the turn of the years, it's incredible. It's testament to the players and to Farke and his team.
Are you worried at all about maybe are we due a little bit of a bad spell that could possibly derail this kind of automatic push? I mean, to think we're going to continue this form for another couple of months. I mean, it could happen. I think the quality of the squad and the mentality, but you just worry, don't you? When Southampton were on that long unbeaten run, and you just thought, wow, that's not going to stop. But it did. And then obviously Leicester now are going through a bit of a wobble. I guess what tempers it for me, though, is the defensive stats. We're not conceding those goals like those teams where, I think even Southampton before that run had ended, they were still conceding quite a few goals, weren't they? Whereas I think we're just so solid at the back. As long as that remains, we've got a cracking shot, haven't we?
I think for every weekend that goes by where we don't lose, we're always becoming one step closer to the point where we will lose. That's kind of how it feels. And that's normal. But I think you're right. I think, the facts are is it's built on the right foundations. Not only are we not conceding goals, most of the weeks we're not even conceding chances. This defence is so solid that we're not even giving up, what's classed as a clear goal scoring opportunity. We're just not giving them up. We conceded one against Sheffield Wednesday, but that were it. And that were against a team that had won 4 straight at home. So we should really be conceding at least one clear chance. And as I said on the review at the time of the Sheffield Wednesday game, this goalkeeper stepped up and made a save. That's what he's there for. So for me, I just see it one game at a time. I don't think we can wish for a better run towards the end of this season. Sure, we've got a couple of potential banana skins in there, but if you're not facing them potential banana skins, you're then facing a Leicester or an Ipswich or a Southampton or whoever. You're facing a better team because it's either one or the other. I would consider a Millwall to be a banana skin. I would consider, the other teams in and around there to be a banana skin. Sheffield Wednesday were a banana skin and we're dispatched of it. So I just think we keep going one game at a time. It's very cliche, but it's true. And for most of this season, and especially 2024, we've been so dominant in these games that the slip doesn't look like coming. We are so much better than most of these teams that we're facing, as are Leicester, as are Southampton, I would say as well. But we're dealing with this pressure better than what they are. And I put that down to Daniel Farke, having the experience that Enzo Maresca and Russell Martin just don't have.
Yeah, I wonder with Leicester, this kind of financial thing, this kind of iceberg that's kind of oncoming for Leicester, because it's going to hit them, it seems, one way or the other, whether they stay up or, whether they stay in the Championship or go up, it's going to hit them. And you just wonder if that becomes a factor. I mean, you've seen Everton now in the Premier League and they can't win a game, and when you've got something like that hanging over you, I mean, do you think it filters into kind of the mentality of the team somewhat? Do you think that, even if it's just them small percentages that it's hurting them, do you think it's something that's prevalent to players and coaching staff?
I believe it is. I believe it absolutely makes a difference. The season that we got relegated from the Premier League, I would argue that team was too good to go down.
Yeah.
But they knew they knew that iceberg was hanging over them. They saw the players being stripped from around them, and the noises that were within, wage cuts and potential wage postponements and whatnot that the players were asked to take. And they knew. I mean, we've seen it through interviews, haven't we, in years that have passed since, that players have talked about how toxic and horrible it was in them closing years. And we saw it again the season that we got relegated from the Championship. I would argue that team was too good to go down as well. But the facts are is mentality makes a big impact, a big part of what happens when you then see a team perform out on the pitch. I'm sure there'll be other examples too. I would argue it.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but players will be questioning the future, won't they? They'll go, well, can this club afford to keep me? Is the grass going to be greener somewhere else? That
is there any point even going up? That's what I'd be thinking. We're going to go up and we're going to get deducted 6-10 points. We're already starting, miles behind was a recently promoted club. Is that what I want? And if we stay up, we're going to have that in the Championship, and we're going to have to work from 10 points behind. I don't believe there's a world in which it can't. It depends, I think, on the management, because I remember again when we went down to League One and we had the minus 15 points. We used it as a catalyst. We used it as fire. You know, Dennis Wise got right behind that, and we won 5 out of 5. And our summer was horrific. Like the turnover of players and the problems that we had going into that first game at Tranmere. I'll never forget it because I was going home and away all the time back then, and it were unbelievable. But the players and the fans really hooked into it, and we used it as kind of the fuel to end up finishing in the playoffs that season. We would have gone up automatically if it hadn't been for the -15. So. It can be used one way or the other, but I think that very much depends on the manager. And I don't believe that Enzo Maresca would be a manager that will be able to fire them up in that way. I imagine him to be, get on with it. It's your job. That's what I imagine him to be like, you know, a bit cold. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Good stuff. So kind of other bits and bobs that we want to get to, kind of going to be a bit random with this, but there's a few little bits and pieces to get through. Nice little mention for Archie Gray from Gareth Southgate today, announcing the squad for the upcoming friendlies. He said there's some exciting players with the under-21s, especially in midfield. Manu, Harvey Elliott, Rico Lewis, and then he's mentioned our very own Archie Gray as well, saying he's doing very, very well, which is, I think, a bit of an understatement, to be honest, but we appreciate that, Gareth. I mean, to be on Southgate's radar, I mean, he's obviously played at international youth levels for England, but I mean, again, it just underlines the massive potential this guy has to already be on the England boss's radar when you've just turned 18. He's
not even played at 21 level yet.
He's not even in the Premier League.
No, he's not even played at 21 level yet either. He's played at under 20s, but he's not played for the 21s. The noises are that he will be in the 21 squad for the next round of call-ups. But, I mean, it says everything about what he's done this season. I think the performance at Chelsea has probably really stood out because it's shown that he can compete at that level, and not only compete, but actually stand out. I mean, he was arguably the best player on the pitch that day. So, you know, fair play to Archie, and, you know, he deserves it. He deserves all the success in the world. And I just hope that so much more of it comes at Leeds before he's snapped away, because I do think there'll be a serious test in the summer. I think it's coming. You know, these teams will be seeing the opportunity, won't they?
Yeah, and just for Leeds as well. I mean, you know, we're going to chat a little bit about it. I mean, the lines are so fine, you know, when it comes to this, not breaking the rules. And, you know, if someone comes in with a big offer for Archie, it's pure profit. You know, you get the full profit, and you'll feel that benefit. But listen, no Leeds fan wants to see Archie Gray go anywhere. You know, because someone like him is worth so much, you know, and it can't really comprehend him not being at Leeds, to be honest. Just a little tidbit as well, former Leeds United defender, Loney, one of our favourites, my favourite loan player of all time, probably Ben White. Seems to be a little bit of a rift with him and Southgate. Southgate's come out and said that he won't be in the squad. Arsenal have said that Ben White's not available for selection. Interesting one, isn't it, really? Because, I mean, he's in a great run of form at the minute, is Ben White. And it seems to me a bit of an interesting character, does Ben White as well, because I think he said in interviews he's not interested in football, really. He doesn't watch football. He's kind of one of those. And it seems that he's not really wanted to sit around on the international scene and kind of not play. But it's a shame, isn't it, really? Obviously, for someone so talented and kind of at the peak of the powers and a really great age. What is he now, 24, 25 or something now? You know,
he's definitely a bit of an enigma, isn't he? He's definitely a bit of an enigma because, I mean, I always loved him. Everything that you saw him and Carl do together, the interactions on the club media when he was at Leeds was excellent. Like, he seemed to love it. And I genuinely believe that he wanted to sign for Leeds at the time. I don't think he wanted to go back to Brighton. I think he made that quite clear. I don't think he was given an option by Brighton to come to Leeds, which is fair play. They made the right call. Like, it pissed me off at the time, but they made the right call on it, Brown, if we're honest. You know, 12 months later, he won Player of the Season, and then he went to Arsenal for double the amount that we wanted to pay for him. So they absolutely got it spot on.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a bit of a character. I mean, I've heard a couple of things, and you know, the situation with Southgate when he was sent home from the last international tournament. It sounded like he had you were saying just before we come on that he'd had a fallout with Steve Holland. And then he you know, he's been very, very open and honest with the fact that he doesn't enjoy football. It's a career to him. And I respect somebody coming out and saying that, if I'm honest. I think if you can succeed to that level of being a professional footballer but not really enjoy it, I think it says a lot about you as a person. Because you have to be exceptionally talented and have an exceptional work rate to be able to achieve what professional footballers achieve at that level. To not even enjoy doing it at the same time it's a concept that I can't quite understand. You know, he came out and said, I don't know if you saw the interview where he got a bit uppity about being called Ben. And he's called Benjamin. Like, and I found that a little bit odd, but it's just who he is, I guess. It's just this character that he is. I don't think he cares what anybody thinks.
Kind of the David Batty thing a little bit, isn't it? That kind of, you're not interested in football really, but can just play, just seemingly go on and play, you know, to an exceptional level.
Yeah, and I saw Cotto used to be at Spurs, the left back, was exactly the same, openly came out and said exactly the same thing. How would that work with
Bielsa though? Like, because obviously Bielsa, I mean, Patrick Bamford has said in that football podcast recently that Bielsa would have a meeting with every individual in the squad before a game, and it'd be fascinating to be a fly on the wall to see what Ben White and Bielsa were like.
All I can say to that, Browney, is the fact that he's obviously so dedicated to his craft, whether he enjoys it or not. He probably enjoyed learning from Bielsa how to get better. Like he obviously can kind of decompartmentalize it from being something that he enjoys and something that he knows he's good at. There must have been a time where he did enjoy it, I would guess, but I don't know. I think most football fans would have struggled to understand that.
I can imagine the joy being sucked out of it somewhat with the pressure though, and the attention, and the kind of, once you kind of get to maybe, you know, his age where you've been there, you've done it, you got the t-shirt, and you know, the training's intense, and if you watch an Arsenal game now, Arteta's like shouting at every player, like, you know, it's so directed, isn't it? I can imagine some players are just like, I am so fed up with this. Like,
I definitely think you've got a point. I've simultaneously found a love for football that I never had before, and also understood it in a completely different kind of miserable mindset as well since Bielsa and since starting scouting journey, because especially at the highest level, the game is so scripted for the players, and they have to be super talented to be able to follow it through and whatnot. But it is extremely scripted based on what they do Monday to Friday on the training pitch. There's very little that is actually individual led. You know, like the odd bit that we see from Gio Rota as an example, that is not in part of the plan. I am absolutely convinced that's not part of the plan. And at Premier League level, you see that less and less and less and less. Go and watch Man City. Man City are the absolute key for this. The passages of play, the movement, when De Bruyne gets that ball, the ball that he whips in over the top to Haaland, that is so scripted and has been worked on for hours and hours and hours to get that right. Even like movements and runs and directions, when a certain player makes this run, it means that another player is going to make X run. Like, that's what happens. So I agree with you completely. I think at the top level, they are playing for them off moments where they score an amazing goal or win a trophy or achieve something big, and they can celebrate that. But the churn, I would imagine, is quite tiring.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so different. It's such a different game, isn't it, to even probably 10, 15 years ago, really. I mean, Pep certainly revolutionized it, hasn't he? And it's influenced a whole host of coaches where it's all so scripted, like you say, attacking defensively. It must take some organisation.
That's why you've seen such a change of managers over the years, from the likes of Mick McCarthy, Steve Bruce, Neil Warnock, you know, etc., being successful, to the likes of now Pep, Mikel Arteta, and some of these who are tactically extremely talented, but probably not very good man managers. I don't, you know, I think Pep must have some man management skills in behind the scenes, because to keep that level of player happy and drilling his style constantly takes a special person, I think, as well. But I think on the whole, I think that is less important than it used to be. I think of somebody like Sir Bobby Robson, you know, who would have just been a magical man manager to play for. But tactically, you know, I was watching something the other day and it made me laugh. I don't know if you've seen the clip of Jose Mourinho talking about when they signed R9 for Barcelona. Have you seen it? And Bobby Robson was basically like, yeah, he's starting. And Jose Mourinho's like, what do you mean he's starting? He's just signed. And
guy they had was scoring one.
Yeah, I forget his name now. We've got ex-player who's been scoring like all these goals. He's playing like, and Bob Robson like, what are you on about? Like, we've got Ronaldo. Yeah. If we've got Ronaldo, we're playing Ronaldo, and he scored 2 and they won the game. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different, because that wouldn't happen now, would it?
No, well, I remember reading kind of someone who was exactly that type of mold is Kevin Keegan as well. And I remember reading Kevin Keegan's book, and it was like, what's training? You know, it was, it's like, it wasn't about that. It was about putting talented players together and giving them the confidence. I think someone like Klopp is a little bit kind of a hybrid, isn't he? He seems like a real big motivator, but he's tactically obviously very good and very switched on as well. But
I think Venables is the same. Terry Venables was the same when he came to us. I think the time of that kind of manager had gone, and they needed to be more. Wenger kind of brought it in to start with, and we then saw Mourinho do it in his own way. I think he's got a bit of both as well. I think the early reincarnation of Mourinho was a very good hybrid too. I would have loved to have played for Mourinho under the first when he first came to Chelsea. What a guy! And I mean, the arrogance the confidence bordering on arrogance was just brilliant. I think you're right. I think Klopp is probably the best of both in the world.
Yeah, and like Ferguson was, he had assistants who probably covered a lot of that kind of stuff for him, didn't they, really?
Yeah,
obviously he was there for such a long time. Good evening, Michael. Thanks for joining us. Good evening, Top Banana as well. Please get your comments in, guys. Smash a like on the video and do subscribe to the channel as well if you're not already. Okay, some other topics of discussion that have been cropping up this week. A lot of talk about the loanees, the guys that are out there.
I can't wait until this is done. I can't wait until they've all pissed off or whatever. Like, honestly, doesn't it?
It's kind of it's on the horizon now. It's a bit closer, isn't it now? And it when they all kind of buggered off last summer, you thought, right, they're off the books, fine. Start a new page. But obviously, clock is ticking. We're hearing a lot of stuff coming through. I don't know if it's getting fed by agents or what is going on. You've heard it now. Max Verber is not going to stay at that club because they're not doing well financially at the moment, even though he's apparently had a really good season. Is it Mönchengladbach? Mark Rocker's another one who he wants to stay at Betis, but then in an interview, it sounded to me like the door's left a little bit open because they'll be looking at Leeds' results and thinking, okay, that I could be back in the Premier League, but they're going to have a massive, massive PR problem if any of those guys come back. I mean, it's a bit of a headache we could do without, really, isn't it? Because guys like Brendan Aronson, who are going to be on a decent wage, have cost a lot of money. What do you do with them? Because they didn't cut it last time. Now, for me, and I know a lot of people don't rate him, etc., and I totally get it. I still feel like with his age, could we still get something from a Brendan Aronson? Maybe. But then, you've got Jack Harrison, obviously, who for me was a stalwart of the Bielsa team, but completely burnt his bridges with everything that's happened in the last 12 months. I don't want to see him back in the team. I mean, just literally search on X now, formerly known as Twitter, search for Jack Harrison, see what the Everton fans are saying, by the way. And it's literally
search for his mum.
It's literally exactly what Leeds fans said for however many years, and with less affection, believe me. So it's going to be fascinating, isn't it, Jason? Where do you stand it? Would you like to just see us cut our losses, or do you think there's room for a Max Verber or a Rocker or an Aronson to actually have a future at Leeds?
I think the first thing that you need to remember is, and I've seen somebody else mention this the other day on another YouTube channel, is that this needs to be remembered that it was a two-way street with this situation. It made a lot of sense for Leeds to be able to move a lot of these players on. The Premier League comes with big wages, and sure, in the contracts there was a reduction to their wages, but then reductions were only agreed upon if there was a get out clause for these players as well. So, no player, take a Diego Llorente or whatever, they're not going to sign a contract with a potentially relegation threatened team where there's no get out clause if there's a huge reduction in the wages. I mean, some of the reductions were 60%. So, being able to remove some of these players' wages, the full wage, not just the 40% that would have been left with, but the 60% that they agreed to because of the clause, and then the 40% on top, has allowed us to be able to assemble a squad like Ethan Ampadu, like Yol Perot would have been on, needed good money, Joe Rodon for a year. These players would not have been able to come through the door if we'd have kept some of these players on the massive wages. Not only that, we'd have probably had to sell more. So, the likes that we've enjoyed seeing this season, Chris Somerville, Gio Rutter, they'd have probably been out of the door. So we have to remember that when we're then just saying, oh, they're all snakes, they're all rats, and all the rest of it. However, that being said, because then there's the opposite, and we've seen it with the likes of Tyler Adams and Sinistera, who forced their way out in the wrong way, and they'd never be accepted back. Getting to the crux of the matter for me, I think there will be a road back for one or two of them. Should Daniel Farke decide, I think you can improve our squad if we're in the Premier League, right? But I think for the majority, there will be no road back because of the fans, because of them. Some of them won't want to come back. Daniel Farke won't want some of them. Will sign improvements that will better them coming back in anyway if we go up to the Premier League. So I don't imagine a road back for most of them. And I'm not getting too worked up about it either, because I still think there'll be a route for all of them to find a way out. I think Brendan Aronson's in a real tricky situation because he's not done well at all. And he had a huge fee attached to signing to Leeds. So we're not just going to give him away. My gut feeling is with him is that he'll probably end up on loan back to Austria or even maybe the MLS for a year. I can see that real clearly. I can see that being the thing. And we hope that he builds his value back up. And if he doesn't, then we sell him a year later for less of a potential headache for us, because it'll be a year less on his contract, which then will make FFP and all the rest of it, profit and sustainability, easier to work around. I think he's the real tricky one. I think most of the others will find homes. Verba wasn't a bad Premier League defender in what we saw of him in a terrible side with terrible management. I think he'll pick up another Bundesliga club, no problem. I think Mark Rocker would be exactly the same in La Liga. Although I do think if we ever played with the three, he could be one that could potentially work his way back in. I don't think he ever did anything wrong to us. I thought he showed good passion, good enthusiasm. I thought he started the season really well. I thought him and Adams played really, really well together. When Adams got injured, that's when the midfield fell apart. So for me, maybe he could come back in, but I don't see a route back in for many of them, mate. Truthfully.
No. I think it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Football's fickle, though. If one or two of them come back and it's good performances and it's good times, I'm sure it'd all be forgotten. But I
think there's a couple that couldn't come back in. I think Harrison's one of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Harrison back at all, to be honest. I think we've upgraded with what we've got, to be honest.
100%.
No, we're in the league below. I always feel like Harrison as well. I feel like he. Listen, I don't like players just being constantly slated for nothing. You don't want personal abuse or anything like that. But I felt like he got away with it for a long time with Leeds fans because he was part of that promotion bubble. I feel like he really got away with some stinking performances.
I think the way he left as well was just unacceptable. Awful. It was just unacceptable. To just kind of walk out, I'll keep an eye on results, see you later. Like, come on, Jack. Like, you've been here 6 years now. Like, you owe a lot to the club, the fans, Bielsa. Give us something. Yeah. Like, give us a proper send-off. Like, I mean, even Robin Koch.
He might have been annoyed that we tried to sell him to Leicester in the January, and maybe it's something like that. But, man, have some self-awareness. The fact that, you still had great times at Leeds United. We made your career. That man, he's another one. There's a few out there that since departing from Bielsa, it's just not working out for them at all. Do you know what I mean? So give some love. Do you know what I mean?
I think he would have an extremely difficult time coming back in. I saw somebody make a really good point the other day, though, and you've just kind of touched on it with the fickle kind of aspects of football. Nonto's been accepted back in, and he didn't leave, but he would have done had he have had his own way. And yet he's, been brought back in. He's now rebuilt. Now we make excuses for Willie because he's young, because he was agent-led and whatever narrative you kind of want to spin on it. But the facts are is there has been a route back in for him. So, maybe there would be. I was just seeing a comment there. Could any of the loaned out players get into our side at the moment? I would say it's few and far between, if I'm truthful. I believe that if Stroy could have been injured, Verber would have come in. I don't think we'd have ever seen Ampadu at centre-back. Let's just say Verber was sat on the bench. I believe Mark Rocker would have probably played over Gruev. I think people have this distorted view of Rocker because I don't know why we ever signed him. It was terrible for a Jesse Marsh system. But he is very similar to Gruev, but a bit better. And I really like Gruev. But I think Mark Rocker at full pomp is a top player if you're playing him in the right system. So I think he would play I think he'd stand out in the Championship, no problem. But apart from that, I would struggle to mention many of the loaned out players.
Interesting one here from John as well. I'd rather loan Calvin back than let Rocker back through the door. Interesting with Calvin because it is just a nightmare for him at the moment. He's not in the England squad, which surprises no one. I mean, you'd be very hard to justify him getting in the England squad at the moment. I'm gutted for him, to be honest, how it's working out at the moment for Calvin, because I absolutely love Calvin. Would I want him back? Would I want him actually back though, Jason? And I've got to be honest, my mind's changing on it because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be worth wasting the money, to be honest, because I don't know what you're getting back, to be honest.
John's talking purely from an emotional point of view there, and I get it. We all love Calvin. He's a darling and he's a Leeds darling. We remember the player that we had under Bielsa, but the facts are is he's not that player anymore. And it's sad to see injuries, stale, being stale from being on the bench or whatever, or it just simply him not being put in his actual position. Every time I've seen him for West Ham, he's been put in the double pivot. He can't play in the double pivot. He's an out-and-out four. He's a single pivot in front of the back four. That's it. He hasn't got it in his game. So, like some people were saying, I can come and replace Declan Rice. He's nothing like Declan Rice. No. Declan Rice is a box-to-box midfielder. Calvin wasn't a box. Calvin was nearly released as a box-to-box midfielder at Leeds before Bielsa came in. So he's not that player. And I agree with you, Brownie. I think that chapter is better left.
Yeah.
So as much as I like the romantic side of that, I think it's better left where it is.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you compare him to someone like David Batty, where David Batty was homegrown and he had success with Leeds in his first stint, but the thing with David Batty is he kept up that level of performance.
Yeah, he did.
After he left Leeds,
everywhere he went,
Newcastle, England, he was top all the time. Then he came back and he was great again. Whereas I think Calvin, I mean, football's harsh though, isn't it? Because it does feel like, some of the things that are going against him, it's just like, oh my God, why is this happening? He must be just thinking, what is going on? What have I done wrong here? Because it's literally everything he's doing at the moment, just not working out at all. And, the West Ham fans, they don't give a damn about him. Do you know what I mean? Obviously he's just joined. So they're thinking, please don't sign him permanently and waste a bunch of money. And obviously he hasn't got a future at Man City. So
football's like that though, isn't it, Brownie? It's very, very volatile. You go a little bit south for a period of time and before you know it, you're out and you're gone. If Calvin weren't on the money that he were on, he'd have a serious issue getting a big deal, getting a big contract because of the last 2 years. It's a real funny one for him. I'm interested to see what would happen. I could imagine if we were to stay in the Championship, I could even see a situation then he's maybe loaned down to kind of have a rebuild and do it in an environment where he knows he's going to get 100% support. I think that makes more sense than us signing him in the Premier League, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's a Championship player. Please don't mishear me. But the situation with Calvin and the position that he finds himself in, a rebuild in the Championship at Leeds United would make a lot of sense next season if we were there again.
We'll probably have to get very creative with what we do in the transfer market if we stay down as well. So that would be interesting. Top Banana, I do agree. I'd still have Batty back. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Classic.
What now? Yeah.
However, a 50, 53 or something year old day. Well, why not? Probably better than the crew last year anyway.
Yeah, true.
Good stuff, yeah. So today there was an article put out by Phil Hay from The Athletic, towing the line of PSR, profit and sustainability rules, how Leeds United have worked to avoid a financial breach in the aftermath of relegation. If you subscribe to The Athletic, definitely worth a read, because it's really good summation of kind of how Leeds have dodged that bullet, and, you know, maybe actually it sheds some light on possibly reassessing the previous owner in terms of how they managed the kind of financial side with Leeds. Just some kind of hot takes from that article. So just for comparison, Leicester recorded an annual loss of 92 million in the 21-22 season. So their problems were starting to mount, basically.
That's the season before relegation, right?
Yeah, season before relegation, they had this kind of iceberg that was coming towards them anyway, which is fascinating for Leeds as well, because the Leicester model was the one that was kind of touted as where Leeds should follow suit.
Just on that, because I think it is worth putting in the caveat. The reason that they've struggled so badly is because of the drop in profits of King Power. So their main sponsor, who own the company, King Power, during lockdown, saw a massive plummet in their stocks and shares and prices and what. I'm not really that educated in that, but that's where their problems have come from. Because if you have a look at their net spend, I believe that they're in net profit for transfers. Now, wage budget's different. I still know that they're misbehaving when it comes to wage budget, and I don't know how that falls in line. You might have that stat there, but I know for net spend in terms of transfers, they're actually performing. I think of some of the sales that they've made, you know, Harry Maguire and some of these over the years. So I think that just needs to be brought in there as a bit of a caveat, because as much as I want to look at these clubs and kind of smack them with a stick and say that's not fair, I don't like these rules at all, per se, because they are there to protect the elite, and everyone else needs to suffer and struggle. So
absolutely. So we kind of know how kind of Leeds survived. They obviously sold Rafinha and Calvin Phillips. It was around about 90 million for those two together. Phillips as well, a massive bonus for Leeds was the fact that it was this pure profit. So it was a homegrown talent, 42 million straight in the bank, done. A lot of other teams resisted selling their kind of bigger assets as well. There were other factors that have helped Leeds as well. So in Phil's article, he outlines how commercially, I mean, this is huge as well. Leeds were the 8th best performing club in the Premier League. That was their kind of strong retail arm, kit sales, a stadium that was sold out for every league game. I mean, you're out of the league for 16 years. You go back into that top league and you're the 8th strongest commercially performing club. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And it points to the potential that we've always known with Leeds, really. Absolutely. So for the 2021 accounting period, Leeds actually posted a profit of around about 25 million that season. Now, unfortunately, due to the JK fiasco, it ended up being a 15 million loss to that, because we had to pay that big settlement.
What a time that was.
A nightmare. Now, our loss in the 21-22 season was 36 million. And obviously the next set of accounts covering last season are due to be submitted with Companies House before the end of this month. And they're expected to show another loss, which is no surprise. Just one thing on that's scary, isn't it? The fact that we're the 8th commercially successful club in the Premier League, but we're still getting losses every year. But it's kind of like water off a duck's back now. We don't even think about it, do we? It's just like, we made a loss for, 30 odd million standard for a Premier League team. And don't forget, we had a very low wage bill, really, in the Premier League comparatively. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Football just doesn't operate like the normal world. That's why generating losses for football clubs is completely and utterly normal. Because of the way that they operate and the way that football operates and the way that shares work out and the way that people are paid and ownerships and where money comes from, it's crazy. It is crazy. So when we announce operating losses, it's based on wage budgets and transfers against gross revenue, which doesn't make up exactly what gets put into a football club. It's very complicated. It's way beyond my accountancy knowledge. But I know enough to understand that it's not something to be alarmed about in the modern day way of working in football. But it means that you have to fall within line a set of rules. And the problem that you're finding at the moment is that some of these clubs are knowing that they're going to be breaking these rules, but doing it anyway. They're not making any changes to try and avoid these rules. And now what you're seeing Everton getting 10 points deducted, then reduced to 6. And what it's doing is it's creating a situation where we have no idea, like the what's the word for that I'm looking for? The integrity of the league is completely all to whack because we have no idea what's going to happen with Forest. Do Luton need more points or not? Like, are Everton going to get another deduction? Are they going to be back in the bottom 30? Like, and it's crap. Like, that's terrible for the way that the Premier League looks and feels and all the rest of it. And you know, you've then got two sides of the divide. You've got Leeds who are trying to do it right and they're selling their valuable assets, and you've got teams like Leicester who are saying, no, we're not going to sell Kieran Dewsbury. We're going to hold on to him regardless. And if we get punished, then we'll get punished by 6 points. We'll try and make it up on the pitch. And that's not right. They didn't want to announce the points deductions that were going to be involved with these penalties because they didn't want people to then think, sod it, we'll do it anyway. But now that they've set a precedent with Everton and given them 6 points, every club that's already broken this rule have got no incentive to actually go out there and sort it out because what they know all they're going to get is a -6 points deduction. So if that doesn't affect their league position, they think, sod it, we'll deal with it anyway. So now what they're seeing this now, but it's too late. And what they're now going to do is they're looking at bringing in a new set of rules, aren't they? But it's going to be after these points deductions. So one way or another, Leicester are going to probably feel some pain.
Yeah, absolutely. Pulling it back to Leeds then, obviously, other staggering facts that you just take for granted in football, that their kind of wage bill in the Premier League, it was £12 million a month. Now, obviously, they managed to trim that down massively, getting players out on loan. As you mentioned earlier in the show, 60% deductions on wages in the squad was absolutely huge. I think, who was it who didn't put a wage reduction in? There was one, wasn't there not another team? Or one of the teams that, I think it was Forest, wasn't it? Forest had gone down, they signed a lot of players without any wage reduction clause.
Chris Wood had been on 120 grand a week in the Championship or something.
My goodness.
Crazy. I mean, as much as we gave Rads so much criticism for it, and I think it's because we didn't understand it, and I tried to understand it as best as I could, and the facts are, he probably saved our club. Truthfully, because without that sort of management, as annoying as it was, we wouldn't have been able to sign some of them. And some might say, well, we'd have been better off without them, and that could have been true. Maybe we should have been making sure that we signed the right attitude of player, like we have done this summer, that would have been willing to come in regardless, and they'd have taken that 50% or that 60%. But some of them players wouldn't have signed, and a lot of players now that we would have been interested in wouldn't have wanted to come to a team that finished 17th the year before with the relegation threat and take a 60% reduction. They wouldn't want that, not without a release clause. So I understand it. And the facts are, if we'd have been stuck with all them wages, who knows where we'd have been, guys? So we have to say fair enough. Like, we know that Rajazani and all had a lot of issues, and he weren't the right person to take us on. We all know that. Take us forward from where we are now and take us into the Premier League, really. I mean, he should have sold at the end of that first season.
Yeah, he should.
Yeah. We'd have still been in the Premier League now for me. But that aside, he still clearly had our best interests at heart in terms of the bigger picture of this club. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was the responsible thing to do, wasn't it? And unfortunately, when you've got player recruitment the way it was, and he's signing the checks, but he's not picking the players to sign, and that's kind of where your issues were. Obviously, we managed to recoup 20 million for Tyler Adams, which was really good. I think we got a deal for Sinisterra for 20 million as well, so that's going to put us in a
just on that Tyler Adams deal. I think that's a right sale. That, like, I like Tyler Adams up until his injury, but consider how Greta Steinson and the rest of them have managed to negotiate that deal is beyond me. I mean, we only paid, I think, 12, 13 million, something like that for him anyway.
We've made a profit on him, which is,
He then went out for 5 months with a hamstring injury. They signed him injured, and we managed to get 20 million for it. I don't know how they pulled that off, but yeah, fair play.
Yeah, because if he'd have stayed, we'd have not
We'd have
seen.
never played him. Yeah,
it's crazy. Interesting little bit of talk about what happened this January as well, in terms of limitations on transfer funds available at Ellen Road, because I think, we were seeing a lot of players going out the door, and obviously only Connor Roberts came in on a loan. But actually, it was quite a bit of a tightrope for that January. We couldn't put a large amount of investment in a game in January, I think. And this is where, other teams can come at us and say, well, yeah, but parachute payments and Premier League and all that. But it's not as straightforward as that. Yes, our squad is the way it is. But look, we know what that situation was from the inside. I mean, if you look at the team that finished the Premier League, there's no way that team does anything in the Championship. So there's so many things that have to go into it to rebuild. I feel like, sometimes certainly other clubs are resistant to giving Leeds United the dues, I think.
I think as well, it's just complete naivety, Browney, if I'm honest. I think that a lot of these Championship clubs that want to be competitive towards the top of the Championship, to have a bit of fun at the top of the Championship, flirt with getting promoted, they don't want the strength of these teams that come down. And it's even worse when it's three not recently promoted clubs like it was this season with Leeds, Leicester and Southampton. All fair, especially Leicester and Southampton, very established Premier League clubs. Leeds were very strong. It creates a real power imbalance in the Championship. But the problem is if you take away parachute payments, you will literally just see the same teams going like this.
Yeah, you will.
You literally just see the same three teams, because all that'll happen is the three teams will go up. They won't spend anything because they'll have too much fear of them being in a seriously financial meltdown should they go back down, because the TV revenues and the money that pulls from the Premier League is just light years in front of what it does in the Championship. So you'd have the three teams go straight back down, and then they'll be the strongest teams in the Championship anyway, so they'll go straight back up again. But so without parachute payments, you won't have any team actually have a go to stay up. As much as I've got my problems with what Forest did, and their recruitment was crazy, they went up and they had a go at staying up and they stayed up. Now, is it within the rules? No, it's not. But without parachute payments, they wouldn't have been able to do that. They wouldn't have been able to do that in the slightest. So, no, I don't think it makes any sense to have that argument.
No, indeed. John mentions here with the new FFP rules, it makes sense to upgrade Ellen Road to 55,000 ASAP. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing with Leeds, and we touched on it from looking at Phil's article there, the fact that the potential and what you can do with Leeds, the scope of it, and the 49ers, it seems like a good collaboration because they're all about infrastructure and stadium. They did a new stadium for the 49ers over in America and increased revenue streams and all that good stuff. And Leeds fans, we're just happy splashing the cash out. We clearly
they've got to keep it going though, because we don't want. If we just cast our minds back before Rajazani, we were struggling to sell 25,000 at Ellen Road.
Yeah.
And I understand the reasons as to why I was a season ticket holder at the time, and I know exactly why people weren't going. They were voting with the feet, and I get it. We had a real bad time under Cellino. Some of the managers that we had, some of the where the money was going, the players that we were recruiting. Before that was Ken Bates. I understand why people didn't want to go. And as soon as Bielsa came in through them doors, it changed.
Yeah, it did.
It changed. The whole landscape changed. I mean, we were back to selling the ground out some weeks under Christensen. Rajazani started to move things, but when Bielsa came, I remember being there for that Stoke game, and the whole city changed. You had the Banksy the memorials coming out. You had the things that Bielsa was doing. The club were reconnecting back with the community and the fan base again, and it changed. It just changed everything. So they have to make sure that they maintain that. Because it's no good having a 55,000 seat stadium and only having 36,000 in the doors. No. I don't think that would be the case, but you get what I'm saying. I think we need to make sure that it's
got to work on the pitch, hasn't it? It's got to work on the pitch, and it's got to be there.
I really believe in the 49ers, though. I really believe in them. I believe in the fact that they've shown me that they're aware that they can't do it all themselves. They've brought in football people. That makes me real confident about what they're doing. They went out and got the best manager. I think they've gone about everything in the right way, and I have full faith. The most faith I've ever had in an ownership of Leeds United since I can remember is right now. from what they've done over the last 12 months and the way that they've conducted themselves. So.
Yeah, same. Yeah, absolutely. I think props to Angus Kinnear, who brokered the deal between Radrizzani and the 49ers as well. I know that obviously Kinnear is one of those kind of figures. He was seen as that kind of trio of Rads or Kinnear, but guys, we've really got to give credit when it's due. Listen, the guy, he brokered the deal between Rads and the 49ers. If that doesn't happen, God knows where we are now.
He's just an employee. He's just an employee for me.
Yeah, exactly.
He's Angus Kinnear, who's doing a good job. So if he is being frowned upon, he under Radrizzani, he's a representative of the 49ers. Of Radrizzani, sorry, at the time. Now he's a representative of the 49ers. I think it's very different. I never really particularly. Some of his program notes are what irritated me the most. Sure. But I never really had too much of a problem with the job that he was doing because he's instructed to do a job by the person above him. My problem when it came to Leeds United under them was Victor Orta's recruitment and Radrizzani allowing him to get away with it. He had too much power, So yeah.
And this is it now. And now we're expanding all departments and we're getting some top people in there, and it's looking exciting. We just need this promotion, don't we? Just need this promotion. Well, let's look ahead then to the weekend's game on Sunday. I'm going. Yes, I can't wait. Come on.
Are you excited?
I'm
excited by Sunday. Are you nervous?
I think when it gets to it, I think there'll be a touch of kind of, because the expectation, the thing that I'm worried about is we're expected to win. We're expected to grab that top spot now because we're in such a good run of form. But and listen, it might just be PTSD, but Wigan and you have all these results from the past where you're like, it was there for the taking, and Leeds somehow, clenched defeat from the jaws of victory. But I think, like we've said quite a few times, you've made this point as well, Jason, is the fact that this is a different team, this is a different mentality. They can handle the pressure. We're certainly going to find out if they can handle the pressure over the next 9 games. But like you've said as well, there's 2 teams. Neil Harris back in charge of Millwall. They've picked up 10 points in the last 12. It's not going to just be a straightforward game. I can imagine it being a little bit like, I don't know, the Stoke game or, something like that where, hopefully we get the breakthrough. As Gail says here, Neil Harris worries me. Absolutely. John earlier, Millwall have improved results under Harris. Still an awful side, fully expect to win, but, these things.
I think the facts is that like Neil Harris knows what it means to play Leeds as a player and as a manager. Neil Harris was a player when we lost to them in the semi-finals. He played for them in them games. He knows he's Millwall through and through. And I mean, you'll vouch for this, Browney. The second that he took the job there, I said, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. They'll stay up because he gets it. I mean, I never fully understood him moving on from there, really.
I wonder what happened there, why it even happened.
I mean, Millwall looked to progress, and they then got rid of Rowett and looked to progress again, and it didn't work. If you are Millwall, I mean, with this with the nicest, intentions, Millwall are what they are. And sometimes you need to understand you are what you are and you need to stay in your lane. And the facts are Millwall can flirt with the playoffs because they've got a funny chemistry at that club. They've got that home ground, they've got the new den, they've got the fan base, they've got the hostility. They sign a certain type of player, a bit like what Luton did last year under Nathan Jones and then going into Rob Edwards and then what they've done in the Premier League. Now, you can make it work. Like, they're never going to win the Premier League, but they can overachieve at their level. And that's where they need to be. And Neil Harris fits that perfectly. And you then mix in the chemistry of Leeds United and a big game that means a massive amount to both teams. And it makes a potential banana skin. It makes a tricky fixture. Remember the season that we went up and we were 2-0 down against Millwall and then we came back to win 3-2 at Ellen Road. Remember it really well. I think it was the season that we went up, or was it the season before? I can't remember. It was the season that Pat cupped his ears anyway. I remember that he cupped his ears.
That season we went up, I think.
I think it was the season we went up as well. I can't remember. But, they caused us problems. Earlier on in the season, we went to the Den. I felt sure that were going to be a banana skin, and we turned up there and we absolutely turned them over after the first 20 minutes. We played them off the pitch, but every time going to the Den, it's a problem. I was there the year that Andy Hughes and David Prutton scored down at their place in League One. Unbelievable day. But most of the time, it's a real difficult game. We went there and lost 2-1 under Bielsa the first season. They went down to 10 men right at the beginning of right at the end of the first half. We were 2-0 down. Alioski came out right at the beginning of the second half and we scored. Or did we go down to 10 men? Did we go down to 10 men?
Did we go down to 10 men? I'm sure, wasn't it?
We came out in the second half and Alioski scored.
Sent off.
Who?
Phillips. Did he get sent off?
No, he got sent off at QPR.
QPR. Yeah,
but we came out in the second half and we scored within a minute of the second half starting and we lost 2-1. I can't remember who it was that got sent off. Anyway, it don't matter. The point is it's a tricky game. The playoffs were tricky. You know, we went down there and we ended up losing. We brought them back to Ellen Road. We battered them that day. Najim Abdu scored and we drew 1-1 on the night and lost on aggregate. It's a tricky game. I don't expect us to lose this weekend. I don't expect us to drop any points either. But I definitely expect it to be a tough game. I don't see it being no rollover.
No, indeed. We've had a nice little break, though, haven't we, actually? You know, it feels like there's not been a game for a while as well. I'm kind of ready for it again. You know, we were in that kind of run of games it felt like a couple of days. We're over that now. The players have had a good break as well. By all accounts, have had a few days off as well. You know, a few players travelling home abroad and that kind of thing, which is great. Hopefully rested legs, rested minds, and ready to go at it. What do you expect with the team? Oh, here we go. Michael says Berardi got sent off at Millwall in that match. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, so we went down to 10 men in the first half, and then we came out and scored straight away, and we just couldn't get back into the game. But
yeah, God, there's so many of these games that have just come. They're there in my memory somewhere, but it's just honestly so many things happened, don't they? In terms of the team then going ahead against Millwall, are you expecting what we saw pretty much against Sheffield Wednesday, or do you think maybe Dan James or someone like that is going to drop into the team?
I think it'll be Farke's strongest 11 on the day that we've probably seen for a while, and I'm hoping the likes of Cree and Gio are fully fit. Gruev's fully fit. Hard to predict between James and Nonto, innit? Because I think he loves them both, and I think he sees the abilities of both of them. I would probably bring Dan James back in. I think he just suits so much at the moment. I've made my points clear as to why previously. He's so direct, scares defenders to death. For me, he's more impactful than Nonto is from minute one. Even though Nonto's had good moments and good games, I didn't think he was great against Sheffield Wednesday first half. No. I think we'd have got more out of Dan James being in the starting lineup. So I would go with Dan James. I'd say it's 50-50 as to what I think he will do. I think he'll go with Archie at right back. I think he'll go Kamara Gruev, Ampadu, Rodon, Firpo, Cree, Pat, Gio, the same kind of basis. I think the right midfield position is probably the hardest to predict. I would say that is the one that is open to debate. And I mean, if Nonto starts again, we're not going to be like, oh, why is he starting? Oh, Jesus Christ. But I just think Dan James is so effective right now, and I think Pat plays better with him than he does with Nonto. So I would go Dan James.
Skip, Millwall needs some points from this game as much as us. Hopefully they will come out and try and play, but playing on that front foot isn't really Neil Harris format allowing us to pick them off yet. It's going to be interesting.
I disagree with that. So they've put themselves in a position where they don't need points out of this game. I think this is going to be the last time we see a proper out-and-out low block, because I think they can come and sit back, try and stifle us, waste time. Ball will be out of play constantly. They'll be fouling constantly. Think of the Huddersfield first half. I think it'll be very much that. Because I think they'll come into this and think if we can leave there with a point or nick a win, wicked. This is a bonus game for them. The 5 points clear of the bottom three, so they don't need to win this game. I think it's the complete opposite to that. I think they'll see this as a pure bonus. They'll look to win all their home games or just take as many points at home as they possibly can. And they'll see this as an out-and-out bonus, and they'll do whatever they can to try and make it as scrappy and as scruffy and S-house their way to this as much as possible. I don't know what you think, but that I think a few weeks ago it would have been different, but they've put themselves in a position where they don't need to think like that.
No, exactly what I'm praying for is like an early goal or two for Leeds and just get it in the bag early. Just don't be having any kind of waiting for a goal in the second half or anything like that, because that's when things can get pretty desperate. Do we want to watch something for a bit of fun just before we round off? Let me bring this on. I think we'll all, fans of a certain era, might enjoy this. This has been doing the rounds.
Have you seen the clip of Gio Rutter checking his phone, doing the who's the most famous person you've got on your phone thing?
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah,
I've got it on at the side of me, and I can just see all lads giggling to get Patrick Bamford. It made me laugh, man. Sorry,
great. No, here we go. So let's enjoy this. David Batty, get it muted. Wait till you see some of the tackles in this, Jason. Look at this. This is what our bats.
That's as clear red nowadays, isn't it? I love this one.
That's wild, though, isn't it? Ronaldo and Batty on the same pitch. A rare goal there for our number 20. Oh, look at that.
My number 4.
Oh, love it. Absolutely love it.
People forget how good of a passer he was, you know.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, really good. I mean, just
love
underrated, massively underrated on that front. I hope it has this England one in where he like kung fu kicks. I think it's Tunisian or bicycle kicks a Tunisian player right in the head. He had a pass on him though, didn't he? As well. That's the thing with Bats. He's a really good passer as well. Bit of vision. Yeah, I love that with Ronaldo. Yeah,
baptism of fire in it. David Batty versus Cristiano Ronaldo.
Love it.
What a player.
Yeah, what a player. Okay, predictions then ahead of the Sunday game against Millwall. And Jason, what we're saying?
2-0, top of the league. That's what I'm saying, because we need to win by 2-0. Well, we need to win by 2 clear goals.
2-0, top of the league.
2-0, top of the league.
Would be perfect, absolutely perfect.
I think it'll be. I think it's going to be horrible, though. I do think it's going to. I don't think it's going to be easy. I forget who put the comment above earlier saying 3-0 easy. Like, no, I don't see that. I think you're right, though. I think if we score early, I think it's got potential to be a different game. I think the longer they kind of keep us out, they catch a scrappy. I mean, if they go 1-0 up, what a horrible game that will be. So yeah, but fingers crossed. I feel confident.
3 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday as well feels a bit iffy.
Yeah, a bit weird, isn't it?
Not keen on that. Don't like that. Good stuff. Excellent. Well, hopefully 3.
What's your prediction?
The league. I'm going to say 2 or 3-0. I think.
Don't you think it's a massive missed opportunity if we don't go top on Sunday?
Oh, yeah, it would.
I know. It don't matter. I know it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because Leicester are going to still have that game in hand, right? But if they have to see the table on Sunday night and they see Leeds United top and them second after bottling 17-point gap, I just think that's massive, and they have to sit on that for the international break. I just think it's huge, huge moment in the race now. I think.
Please make it happen, Leeds. Please 2-0. Make it happen. Just, please, 2-0, top of the league. I'm
excited.
Yeah, me too. Come on. Good stuff. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for getting your comments in. If you're watching this again later, smash your comments in as well. We'd love to check those out as well. Also, remember to like the video if you haven't done already and subscribe to the channel as well. Myself and Jason will be back shortly to discuss all things Leeds United again. Plus,
review Sunday.
Yeah, review Sunday. Yeah. Possibly, or depending on what state I'm in. I'll have to let you know. Yeah, might not be wise to come on a live stream after, but we'll see. We'll see what state I'm in. Can scoop me off the floor, and we'll see what I'm saying. But anyways, yeah, we'll be back then. If not, it'll be the West Yorkshire Football Show episode 12 on Monday night as well with the boys. Hopefully, we'll have something good to talk about as well. And we're going to be doing a bit of England stuff as well, aren't we? Maybe not over the international break, but certainly going into the Euros because it is a good summer because we've got an international tournament, which is great. Looking forward to that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching along. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.